We have some rule changes in the real estate industry as a result of several lawsuits which listed the National Association of Realtors as well as some of the largest brokerages. Now, the National Association of Realtors has decided to settle, and as part of the settlement agreement, they've agreed to make some rule changes around how real estate commissions are negotiated and who is responsible for paying them. I'm Tim Hamilton with StellarQuest Real Estate, and in this video we're going to be discussing how these rule changes affect people who are buying and selling homes and what you can expect once you get to the point where you're ready to start either looking at property as a buyer or placing your home on the market as a seller. If you enjoy watching this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button below, and please subscribe if you like to stay up to date on the housing market. First, I wanted to just give a quick summary on how the industry operated before these new rules went into effect on August 17th, 2024, just so you can see how things have changed. So in the past, before the new rules took effect, the listing agent and the seller would negotiate a total real estate commission that would get paid to the listing broker. Then the listing agent and seller would decide how much of that commission would get offered to an agent representing the buyer. So, for example, the seller may agree to pay the listing broker a total of a 5% commission, and of that 5% commission, 2.5% would get offered to the agent representing the buyer, and that number would be advertised and specified in the multiple listing service. So in other words, the seller would negotiate the commission that would get paid to both the listing agent and the buyer's agent. And just want to make it 100% clear that real estate commissions are and always have been negotiable. So if I use any specific numbers in this video, it is just purely as an example. And if you are out there negotiating a commission with a realtor, just keep in mind they're always negotiable. There are no set fees. Under the new rules, the seller will only be responsible for negotiating the amount of commission that gets paid to the listing agent, and this amount gets specified in writing on a listing agreement. Buyers are now responsible for negotiating the amount of commission paid to the buyer's agent, and that amount will have to be agreed to in writing on a buyer representation agreement, which now has to be signed before the agent shows the buyer any property. Now, the buyer's agent commission is negotiable. It can be, as an example, a percentage of the purchase price, a flat fee, or an hourly rate. But the important thing is whatever is agreed to, it has to be in writing on a buyer representation agreement and signed before the buyer sees any property with the buyer's agent. Now, although the buyer is ultimately responsible for paying for the commission, they can ask the seller to help out with that as a concession through escrow. So, if you're worried that you don't have the extra cash in your bank account to cover the down payment, closing costs, and now the buyer's agent commission on top of that, you don't have to worry, because you can ask the seller to either pay a portion of or the total amount of the buyer's agent commission through escrow as part of your offer. Now, if you do have the extra cash sitting there and you would prefer to just pay your agent directly, by bringing in extra cash through escrow, that's fine too. But so far in my experience, it appears that most buyers are asking for the seller to pay for their total buyer's agent commission. Now let's talk about a couple things to keep in mind if you're a potential home buyer and you're going to be negotiating your buyer's agent commission. If you're going to be asking the seller to pay for the total amount of the commission, keep in mind that the amount you're asking them to pay will change how the seller perceives your offer, and can even put you at an advantage or disadvantage if you're competing with multiple offers. So if you're asking the seller to pay a commission higher than what the other offers are asking, that's going to put you at a disadvantage. And if you're asking the seller to pay a lower commission than what the other offers are asking for, that could put you at an advantage in the negotiation. So we're going to go through a quick example of a home where 3 buyers all write an offer on the home. They're all very well qualified buyers. All the terms in the offers are very similar. Really, the main difference is the amount of buyer's agent commission they're asking the seller to pay. So let's say all three buyers, they write their offer at $1 million. One is asking for a 3% buyer's agent commission, which would be $30,000. One is asking for 2.5%, which would be $25,000. And the last one is asking for 2%, which is a $20,000 buyer's agent commission. Now, assuming all other things are equal, the seller is most likely going to accept the offer that's only asking them to pay the 2% buyer's agent commission, because they're going to net $5,000 more than the 2.5% commission and $10,000 more than the 3% commission. Now, other things to keep in mind is how skilled the agent is in the negotiation. So if you're paying your agent 3%, they better be negotiating very well on your behalf. And if they're very skilled and very experienced, there is a chance that they can get your offer accepted over another agent that may be less skilled and less experienced, just because the seller and listing agent perceive that to be the most likely deal to close in a timely manner or without having any major hiccups throughout the escrow process. So when you're negotiating your commission, understand that the amount of commission you're paying is important, but you need to look at the service that you're getting and the experience that you're getting for the commission that you're paying. And then considering if you do have enough cash that you're going to be paying the buyer's agent commission out of pocket, when you're looking at the comparable sales to decide how much you want to offer on a home, you should also take note if there is a concession that was paid for the buyer's agent commission. So normally, if you're a buyer, you see a property, you decide you want to write an offer on that property. Your agent will pull the most recent sales in the neighborhood and start showing you what they sold for you so you can decide how much you want to offer. Well, let's say there's a house down the street. It just sold for $1 million, very similar to the one you want to purchase. So you're thinking, oh, maybe I'll offer $1 million. Well, then you notice that seller happened to pay a $25,000 concession for the buyer's agent commission. Well, if you're not asking them to pay that, then effectively the net selling price for someone not asking for a concession for buyer's agent commission would be $975,000. And so kind of going back and to the multiple offer scenario, if you were a buyer in this situation, not asking for the seller to pay any buyer's agent commission, you would just subtract these commissions from the purchase price to see where you would have to be to net them the same amount of money. So, to compete with someone offering $1 million and asking the seller to pay a 2% commission of $20,000, your offer would be equal to theirs at $980,000. Now let's talk about how these rule changes affect you if you're thinking about selling your home. As a home seller, you'll get to decide whether or not you're willing to offer some form of concession to pay for all or a portion of the buyer's agent commission. If you are willing to offer some form of concession, there's a place where we can advertise that in the multiple listing service. We are not allowed to put any specific amount that you're willing to pay, only that you are willing to consider some form of concession. And by doing that, you're not committing to any specific amount or committing to pay the entire buyer's agent commission. You're simply letting buyers and buyer's agents know that you will be considering and willing to offer some form of concession. Now, if you're not willing to offer some form of concession, just be aware that this could ultimately affect the number of buyers who can purchase your home and the selling price that you may get. And the reason for that being is that many home buyers simply don't have the extra cash to pay for the entire amount of their buyer's agent commission once they've already, put a bunch down for the down payment, paying for their closing costs, to then also tack on the buyer's agent commission on top of that is a little bit too much for most of the buyers out there looking, especially first-time home buyers who have just finally saved up for the down payment. So if you're not willing to pay a concession for the buyer's agent commission. You just need to understand that this will limit the number of buyers who can realistically purchase your home, and ultimately you'll probably get a lower selling price compared to homes that are offering a concession for the buyer's agent commission. And then the other thing I'll say for home sellers is just make sure you're converting all the offers you receive, if you do receive multiple offers, and make sure you put all of the offers on a level playing field. So the way I like to do this is simply subtract the dollar amount of commission that the buyer is asking the seller to pay from the selling price, and then comparing all of the offers net of the buyer's agent commission. So for example, kind of a very similar scenario, if you watched the buyer advice portion of this video, let's say you receive three offers, they all come in at $1 million. One is asking for a 3% commission, that would net you $970,000. One is asking for a 2.5% commission, that would net you $975,000, and one is asking for a 2% commission, which would net you $980,000. Now, all things being equal, assuming all three buyers are very well qualified, they're not asking you to do any, other repairs or concessions up front, you would net slightly more money by going with the offer who's asking you to pay a lower buyer's agent commission. Thank you for watching. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home in Southern California, please feel free to reach out to me anytime. You can find all of my contact information in the description below. More than happy to answer any questions you have about commissions or buying or selling a home in general. And if you enjoyed watching this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button below, and please subscribe if you like to stay up to date on the housing market.